Welcome to another edition of What Your Money Can Buy in Toronto. In today's video, I'm going to go through this most recent purchase I made for my downtown Toronto condo buyer. This 1+1 unit that we bought for $645,000 at Lakeshore and Bathurst. And there's a lot of interesting things, as always, to go through with these units, these sales, these purchases. And in this case, we're going to talk about how we purchased this unit, what it says about the market, go through some of the building analysis, area analysis, give you more context in terms of the transaction, and how these units in this building were selling for almost $100,000 more during peak market, and how much prices have fallen since peak market, and how we managed to take advantage of that. As always, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate, Realtron Realty Inc. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On this channel, we like to discuss all things having to do with the Toronto and GTA real estate market, market stats, market trends, property tours, what your money can buy, buyer advice, seller advice, area analysis, condo reviews, and so much more. So if you find any of this content informative or enjoyable, feel free to get in touch with me. You can find my contact information on the screen and in the description box. So let's go inside to check out the unit. As always, we're going to see the unit, and as we see the unit, I can't stop myself from talking. So we're going to talk about how the transaction came about, what it says about the market, and a lot more insight into the Toronto and GTA real estate market. In this case, obviously the downtown Toronto condo market. So let's go inside. Let's go. All right, guys, so we're now upstairs on the floor. We're gonna go see the unit, but I thought it would be a good idea to show you the hallway. Why? Why is it a good idea to show you the hallway? Because it gives you a little bit better understanding of the building. Obviously, as I mentioned in my previous video on this building, when I purchased a studio unit in this building up to the 7th floor is a Siamese building. What does that mean? Well, it means it wraps around the courtyard in this case. Cameraman, if you come a bit closer. And as you guys can see, across is all the other units. So this is a wrap around hallway up to the 7th floor, which also means it has 2 elevator shafts. So 1 elevator shaft behind the cameraman, 1 elevator shaft behind me. That's up to the 7th floor. Above the 7th floor, it becomes your regular old condo. If you purchase a unit 7th floor and lower, you take the risk of your balcony being exposed to the courtyard, as is the case with those units. Cameraman, if you can show the audience quickly. You guys can see those units have their windows and balconies exposed to the courtyard. Now, obviously, in this case, we make sure for my client to avoid that. So luckily, his unit is not exposed to the courtyard. He gets plenty of natural light. We'll go through the exposure inside the unit when we're going through the unit in a couple of minutes. All right, guys, we're finally inside the unit now. My back to the front door, cameraman standing in the kitchen. We purchased this unit for $645,000, size-wise around 578 square feet, with 1 parking, 1+1 bedrooms, and 1 washroom. And I'll obviously, as we go along, go through the history in terms of sales in this building, what these units were selling at during peak market, during hotter times in the market, and how this transaction came about and what it says about the market. But however, first the property tour. As we walk through the unit, we see to our right, we have the kitchen here, which if for a unit this size, the kitchen is actually quite wide, right? Nowadays in newer buildings, and 38 in Uzi is a relatively new building, it's around 2.5 years old at the time of recording of this video. These layouts we would call railway layouts. However, unlike other railway layouts, this is not a narrow unit whatsoever. This is pretty wide. Once again, for the budgetary price point it's in, and for the size, the kitchen is quite wide. Another thing I'll be remiss to mention is the high ceilings. The ceilings here are almost 11 feet, which are pretty high. Once again, for newer units and newer buildings, you usually do not get this wide a kitchen and this high of a ceiling. Now, obviously, as always, I like to say, by the time you're seeing this video, the unit is no longer staged. Whether it's a sale, I've represented a seller in this transaction, or whether it's a purchase, I've represented the buyer, because of course, my client's comfort in the transaction is utmost priority. So we usually end up getting these videos in at the very last second when all the staging is gone. However, when it was staged, you can see how everything flowed very nicely together. And once again, for the size, there's plenty of cabinet space. This is actually kind of an impressive kitchen for the size of the unit in terms of how much space there is for cooking and other kitchen utensils, in terms of the cabinet space and all that. The fridge is obviously on the smaller side. Another thing is that the stove is these, countertop electric stoves. And these are obviously less than ideal, but for a first-time home buyer in this price point, these come with the territory unless you're looking at older buildings. Now, this is what is in front of the entrance. To the left, you have the washroom. Now you come all the way around here. and this is the only washroom in the property. Ideally, when you purchase a 1+1, you want to get 2 washrooms. Unfortunately, once again, in newer buildings, 1+1s with 2 washrooms are rare. Builders do not really build 1+1s with 2 washrooms anymore. You can find those in middle-aged buildings, like 8 to 10 years older. Obviously, I'm not saying there aren't any new units in any new buildings that are 1+1 with 2 washrooms. I'm just saying those are the exception, not the rule. And then here, obviously, we have the closet, and to my right, we have the laundry. One of the good things is that this building comes with the units in this building, at a default, come with pretty big washer and dryer units. Now, with regards to this transaction, my client, in this case, the buyer, his biggest item of priority was the location, and then number 2, the den. We'll get into the location a bit later. However, in this case, and it's unfortunate that it's not staged anymore because there was lamps there with an office and a desk when it was staged so I can turn on the lights. There's no light fixture currently right now in the den. Nonetheless, the den, I hope it comes through in the video, is quite large. It's quite deep, I would say, right? I think it's 9 feet in length, if I recall correctly. And once again, that was one of the biggest items of priority for my client in terms of his criteria, and I tell this to my buyers all the time. If you have 10 items on your criteria, it is in the most unlikely event that you'll find a property that satisfies all 10 items of your criteria. The goal is to find a property that satisfies 7 to 8 items of your criteria, and for you to know which items on your criteria are non-negotiable. And in this case, for my buyer in this transaction, the non-negotiable items, 2 of them were the den. The den has to be sizable to fit his stuff in terms of desk and office and all of that, and the location. Now let's speak a little bit more about the location later, but now let's enter towards the bedroom. Now the bedroom in this case is on the smaller side. It does still fit a queen bed. However, if you're gonna have a queen bed and to have it comfortably so, you probably can't have end tables. If you have an end table or a side table, you probably have to reduce it to 1. Because if you do have a queen bed and you have an end table, accessing the closet will be difficult, for instance. And as we see, the unit gets plenty of sunlight, especially the bedroom as well. It has southwestern exposure, so you know you're gonna get a lot of natural light. So let's talk about the building a bit more, and then let's talk about the location, right? As we enter to the balcony. Cameraman, if you will, come to the balcony. Now, the most major intersection of this building is Lakeshore and Bathurst. Previously, when I recorded a video in this building for the first unit I purchased earlier in 2023, that unit was a studio unit, no bedrooms, obviously only 1 washroom, but it was on a higher floor, on the 11th floor. This is on the 7th floor, and we see in terms of exposure, it's somewhat obstructed, but it's safe. What do I mean by that? It's not as if it's viewing a gas station or an empty parking lot or a strip mall where you don't know what's going to happen in the coming years. Is there going to be a mid-rise built there? Is the strip mall going to remain a strip mall? Is the parking lot going to remain a parking lot? Are they going to build a high-rise? How much of a high-rise? How much of your view is it going to obstruct? Here, you have obviously this adjacent building here that is obstructing some of the view, but it's very quiet, very low to the ground. You still have some city views. You still see the lakeshore. You're still able to see the lakeshore streetcar and the lakeshore streets. Although it's not a completely wide open view, it is a safe bet. You know what you're getting as soon as you walk in through this unit and you decide to go for it and decide to purchase it. Nothing is going to change, and you can have that ease of mind. As we go back in, hopefully we get to see the other perspective of the unit right from this angle. Let me talk about the building a little bit more and then use that as a jumping off point to talk about the location. Now, my client, it was very important for him to be close to his office. His office is in Liberty Village. Now, as you know from this channel, I'm not the biggest fan of Liberty Village. I think, honestly, most of Liberty Village is very mediocre and subpar. There's probably only 1 to 2, maybe 3 buildings I would, even be enthusiastic about. Most other buildings, just my opinion, in there are at best very mediocre. Even the community of Liberty Village, I don't like. But that's just my opinion. Once again, you can find other real estate agents who differ with me on that. So we did view some Liberty Village buildings, 55 East Liberty, 65 East Liberty, 75 East Liberty, 125 Western Battery, 50 Ordnance, 30 Ordnance. Now, you know my opinions on those buildings. Some of them I mentioned are complete trash. Some of them I mentioned are merely okay. So I recommend to my client, if we could expand the radius a bit more. And this is Lakeshore and Bathurst, by the way. We're not talking, it's not as if it's like 15 minutes away from Liberty Village. It's literally just outside of Liberty Village. And if we could expand the search radius a bit more, look at some of the Fort York buildings, you know, some of the good ones, not the bad Fort York ones. And look at this building, 38 Anuzi, there is going to be more options available. On average, better buildings. And that's exactly what happened with this building. I think this 38 Anuzi has its issues. It's not a perfect building by any means. I wouldn't even rank it as the top 10 buildings in downtown. But definitely, I would say it's a solid B- to a B+ building. But definitely, I would say that it's a solid second tier building. It's good for a first time home buyer who's not gonna make it their forever home. You could do much worse. In fact, you could do a lot worse. Now, what does this sale say about the time we purchased it, and how is it indicative of the Toronto and GTA real estate market? Now, off the top, in the beginning of the video, when I was standing outside, you saw me say we purchased this for $100,000 less than the units were going for during peak market. Let me explain a little bit more about that. When we decided to put an offer on this property, as I always do, I do a thorough, deep analysis in terms of market value of this unit, and according to the comparables, according to the market trends in that given community, in this given building. In doing the research, I saw that during peak market, units that were very close to this unit in terms of size, in terms of layout. In fact, one of the units was exactly the same. It just had a different exposure and it was on a lower floor. Well, guess what? That unit during peak market, we're talking here February 2022, when everything was crazy, sold for $758,000. This unit, we bought it for $645,000. And I'm telling you, the only difference was the fact that there was 2 floors lower and that had southern exposure, but a bit of a better view. And that's pretty much it. And in terms of square footage, that was 10 square feet bigger. So a unit that's only 10 square feet bigger, a unit that's on a lower floor and a slightly, not crazy, slightly better view, sold for more than $100,000 than what we bought this unit for in November of 2023, towards the end of the Toronto GTA real estate market that is in 2023. And this is what I keep saying. At the time we bought this unit went through one failed bidding war. So they tried to do the multiple offer method where they listed at $599, hoping to get, high 600s. They got only one offer on offer night. They did not manage to sell it. They relisted at a much higher price, around $670. Did not manage to sell it. They reduced the price. They got one offer, once again, did not sell it. They got another offer, did not sell it. We're now in 3 offers, and at this entire time, looking with my buyer, I've had my eyes on this unit. And once you know the background and the context of the unit you're interested in, and you know they failed to sell it 3 times because they're getting lowball offers in a cool market, all you gotta do is come with somewhat of a reasonable offer to bring them down from their own expectations. And that's what we exactly managed to do. Listen, today at the time of recording this video is in December, and I'm very adamant that November was a great time to be a buyer. Inventory was high, buyer demand was low, listings were collecting dust on the market, going through failed bidding attempts, relisting multiple times, having little showings. At the time of recording of this video in December, things are pretty much the same. They haven't declined from November, they haven't increased from November. It's pretty flush. And I think for the first half of January, we're gonna look at the same buyer-friendly conditions. I've been telling all my clients, buyers, try your best, if you're actually serious about purchasing, to purchase before Q2 of 2024, because that's where I see market kind of bouncing back to the seller side. Here mainly I'm talking about March and April, right? And a little bit of May of 2024. I think prices will be higher. I think competition is going to be higher. I think listings might be higher as well, but demand will also be higher. As a result, if you are a serious buyer, obviously if you're approved, you can afford it, and it's a wise financial decision, all those things are assumed. Try to get your buying out of the way before the market bounces back in 2024. Now, am I saying the market's going to blow up? No, I don't think so. But it's definitely going to be less buyer friendly than it is right now. Similarly, what I've been telling the sellers is the exact opposite. Wait until 2024 to list your property. There's no need to list it in a cool market that we had in November when I made this purchase for my buyer, and that we will have most likely for the duration of December and for the first half to the entirety of January. It's really hard to obviously predict the market. Anyways, guys, that is it for this edition of What Your Money Can Buy in Toronto. Thank you very much so for watching. You can check out all the other series and all the other editions of this series on my channel. I think this is the 17th or 16th one. I've done plenty up to this point. As always, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate, RE/MAX Realtron Realty. Thank you very much so for watching. Stay safe. You can find my contact information in the description box. Get in touch and stay tuned. Thank you.